to the Sustaining Creativity podcast. I'm your host, Mari Riesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Louloua Smadi. She's a neurotherapist and author, primarily working with children with special needs. Please enjoy Louloua Smadi. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity podcast. Today, I am here with Louloua Smadi. She is a neurotherapist who primarily works with children who have special needs. She is also an author, and I can't wait to chat with her about creativity. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you. So good to be here.
Wonderful. Well, before we dive into, I'm sure, a very rich conversation about creativity, why don't you take a couple of minutes and just let our listeners know a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Hi, so I'm Louloua. People call me Lulu. I am a neurotherapist, and I mainly use a therapy called neurofeedback, which is a brain training modality that improves brain function by controlling the brainwaves. You just learn how to control your brainwaves. And I primarily work with children with special needs because I have a brother who has autism, and he was my inspiration in everything that I do. And I've learned so much from him, and I decided to get into this field because of the experience that my family went through. And that's what my whole book is about. It's about neurofeedback therapy, and it's about my family, him. It's about my experience with neurofeedback, which helped me deal with my attention difficulties, with my depressive tendencies. And then the book also recounts my career progress in neurofeedback, and it really just explains what the hell this therapy is.
Nice. I love it. I know when people start talking about the brain, I think many people kind of their eyes glaze over when we use
it's like, what? You lost me.
Parts of the brain. When you start talking about amygdala, hippocampus, no one knows what's going on.
Yeah.
So yes, but it sounds like your book really breaks things down and makes things easier to digest or understand.
Yeah, it's called From Client to Clinician. So it really does go through my experience as a client of neurofeedback to me becoming a clinician. And I just wish that it gets into the hands of the right people and families.
Nice. Yeah. And it really sounds like your own journey with your family and your brother and that journey of neurofeedback and that experience really supported you to get into this field and share this work with so many more people.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, why don't we dive into some chatting about creativity? And I'm sure more neurofeedback information will pop up as creativity, I can only imagine, is just interwoven into so much of it.
So many different ways.
Yeah.
It's actually, creativity has always been that thing that I've battled with in a way. I don't consider myself a creative person, but I have to be creative.
Yeah.
Although I'm not one of those people.
That's so interesting that you say I'm not one of those people. Who are those people for you?
I mean, I see them around me. And I mean, maybe let's go with what creativity is for me. Sorry, maybe I'm jumping in.
No worries.
I know it's such a big word. For me, creativity is being able to connect things together. And that's how I see other people doing it, right? I consider people who are creative when it's like they come up with solutions of things that I'm like, oh, wow, how did I think of that? But the way I see my creativity, I don't see it necessarily in the arts. For me, my creativity is more, how am I going to be able to problem solve and find a solution about something that is giving me trouble today, but really that has to do with the future.
Okay. I like it.
So it's more, I mean, for me, creativity, whether it's with using neurofeedback and in what brain areas we want to work with, or with how to be creative and trying to teach certain skills to children.
Yeah.
It's such, or how to be creative when I was writing my book.
Right.
It can really range. So
nice. I love that. I believe we're all creative, and we don't need a special gene to be creative. And creativity really comes in so many forms. It's not just creative arts or performing arts. We have to be creative when we're driving, when we're going on a walk, when we're parenting, when we're in relationship. Creativity is called for in so many areas of our life. So I think even though many of us believe I am not creative or we are not creative because it's been kind of siphoned to this specific group of performing people, I want to demystify that. We are all creative.
And I love that.
If you've ever picked up a butter knife to tighten a screw on something, that's using creativity. Or opened the fridge and gathered different food items to make a meal is part of creativity. Or how you get dressed in the morning. So I think by making creativity a little more accessible, I hope that more people will see that they actually do lead very, very creative lives. So
I love that mission.
That's what I'm on. That's where the podcast comes in. But I can only imagine writing a book. There's lots of challenges, but also being a neurotherapist, you come up against challenges or blocks or resistance with clients. How do you navigate creative challenges?
So the way for me, the biggest creativity issue that I have is actually people asking me. So parents will come up and say, how am I supposed to play creatively with those children? Because if I'm creative myself, it's fine. The way I'm creative, really, to answer your question, is I just start and go, and then I course correct, and then it's really just, if I'm just going to think about it too much at first, it's like with the book, you're staring at this blank page, whether it's your first ever page or a chapter or this new concept you're trying to explain. You just have to, that's how it was with me. I just write and then rewrites and rewrites. I have so many drafts, and and that applies to my work with neurofeedback. You have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And you learn from the person. So I can't make assumptions on how this person is feeling. Right. I can take an educated guess and rely on what I'm seeing on their brainwaves and then what I'm hearing from what they are feeling.
Yeah.
But then you don't know how the brain is actually going to react. You don't know how they're actually going to react to situations. They may think that they love doing this activity, and actually when they actually are doing it, they hate it.
Right.
So it's just about being able to adapt to what's in front of us. And I think that's where my creativity jumps in, because it's on the spot. You have to find a solution very quickly.
Yeah.
And think, okay, what is the best outcome out of all of these? And but my biggest challenge with creativity is actually teaching parents to not be afraid of being creative.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
It really applies it's a challenge, and I love that.
It's true. I'm sure you've heard of play and play therapy.
Yeah.
Just normal play. It doesn't even have to be play therapy. But in our line of work, creating good behavioral changes, we really emphasize on the amount of play that you have with your children. And sometimes play doesn't have to be just a Lego game. It doesn't have to be just a plain puzzle game. It can be, if you're trying to teach the alphabet, and that child doesn't want to sit on a table and learn his alphabet, you could, that's where creativity would come in. You could take a letter and then throw it on the wall. And each time you throw it on the wall, the kid has to say A.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah. And I think it's those types of play that parents really struggle with, and how to be creative and play.
Yeah. I think that's I can absolutely see that when we as adults, we don't do a lot of play in that art, play that we may have done in childhood. And so it's like a muscle. If you aren't flexing it and using it, it's challenging to all of a sudden tap back into it really quickly. So that makes a lot of sense that adults would have a hard time coming up with ways to play with children, particularly who have some special needs around the types of play or the versions of play that they're working on. Or
would you consider being creative something that you have to work on? Like the more creative you are, the better you become?
I mean, I don't know if it's like the better you become. I think your life becomes more rich and fun, and there's more joy. Yeah, I mean, and less regret. The more creativity you employ in your life, the fewer regrets you have. I believe that, many people regret not writing their memoirs, or not continuing to play a musical instrument or learn a language, or those are the regrets people talk about, or they stay in a job that they hate. And I'm like, well, taking creative risk actually helps reduce your amount of regret that you have in your life. So why not employ creativity?
Yes.
But hearing you talk about children and parents or adults and play, what's your earliest memory of being creative?
It has to be me playing with my brother.
Yeah.
So my brother is 18 months younger than me.
Okay.
So we're very close in age. So I don't remember life without him. And I hated being alone. So I always needed my brother to play with me, but he just wouldn't play with me the normal game. So I always, I had to think of, unconventional ways of getting him to engage in whatever game he would play. And that would maybe be, I would imagine that we were at school and I was a teacher and he was a pupil, and and I would try to find ways for him to stay focused on the game and not run away and play his other toys. So I had to actually think of, okay, what am I going to do to keep you involved and interested in what I want to play? And then I quickly realized that I also had to be creative in how I'm going to understand his games and his interests, and how so it's not just that one way side. It's what can I do as your sister to find what you find interesting to me. It could be he loves going to McDonald's. He loves trying any like face cream. Like he would go to, I don't know if you guys have like any beauty, like a Ulta or a Sephora or whatever it is. He would just go in and open all the creams, like the testers, and then just put them on his hand. And at first it was kind of like, okay, like this is boring, like come on, let's just leave. And then he loved it so much. I'm like, okay, this is fun. Like let's try all the face creams, let's put them on our hands, and let's smell good. Let's try all the perfume. And that was my way of being creative, I guess, with him. And I honestly just I want that so much to be in so many families, because like you said, it just becomes fun, and that's a way of connecting.
It is, absolutely. And the more we're able to connect, the richer our lives become.
But if I don't want to be creative and just look down and decide that that game is supposed to be played that way only, and if that's the only way you and I are supposed to interact, and we're not able to be creative, then we hit a wall.
And I think that's true for so many of us. We do hit walls and blocks and then have to get creative of how we navigate that. And it just sounds like you were so willing to be flexible and kind of step into, in the world of creativity, what we call kind of flow with whatever your brother was doing, that really inspired you to engage with the activity in a really different way.
I do have to give credit to the people who taught me that. I'm not going to say that. So in my book, I have interviews with Dr. Lynette Louise, who's a therapist, who was my brother's therapist, and she is the one who taught me all of this. She's an extraordinary woman. Has 8 children. She adopted 6 of them. 4 of them were on the autistic spectrum and had many other challenges. And then there was also a behavioral program for autism, which is called the Sunrise program. And so the combination of both of Lynette and Sunrise really taught my family these concepts. It wasn't until then that we understood the power of fun. Yeah. Really just to put it down at the core of what it really is. It's just fun and acceptance and joining, really just joining someone in what they like, or joining whatever activity is going on next to us. So yeah, I learned from very amazing people.
I love that. Yeah. And, I think it's a testament to you we can learn so many things, but to actually put it into action and to engage with it in real life speaks to, your desire to connect and create something.
Lynette was actually one of the best examples she has to give about all this is when she talks about her time of doing improv comedy.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I can't imagine doing that, like ever being on stage and doing improv of anything, whether it's dance or, and that is something that, wow, that seems like one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
And that's creativity.
It is.
That's why I say I'm not creative.
Yeah, when we look at creativity just through that lens of improv, many people would agree that they were not creative. And yet, I think we can learn how to do that. We can engage parts of our brain to, play in that way, imaginative play, or allowing that subconscious to have a louder voice, and our, conscious mind or prefrontal cortex space to say, like, we're going to set you aside for 30 minutes while we do some improv and engage in
it's
that.
Not your place to shine right now.
Right.
Go to sleep.
You don't need to over-evaluate everything.
Yes.
So, but I love it. I love that she used her experience in improv to support that fun and joy and creativity and how to say yes to something. I mean, that's what improv is all about, saying yes and adding to it.
Oh my God, she says that all the time. Yes, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's really one of the tenets of improv is saying yes and picking it up. Because when we say no, we end the scene, or it's hard to keep going when someone is constantly saying no, 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 no. But I love it. I love how all of these weave together in ways that we don't think about. We don't think how much creativity goes into neurofeedback or neurotherapy. And I love hearing about it, or seeing how it shows up. It sounds like you're really inspired by both Lynette. Did I get her name right?
Lynette, yeah.
Lynette and the Sunrise Institute. And are there other things or people that inspire you these days?
I mean, I guess for me, the way I really get my inspiration is books. Yeah, I love music, but I wouldn't say that I get inspired
Yeah.
music, or arts like paintings and stuff. It's really books. I get my best ideas, my best motivation, my best future, like thinking of the future and imagining what a potential future could look like. It's books, authors, ideas. What did I just? I'm currently actually reading. I'm currently reading. Oprah has a new book.
Oh.
It's called "What Happened to You." It's about trauma. I mean, it's such a big. Oops, excuse me. It's such a big topic.
Yeah.
But her and Dr. Bruce really just simplified things, and I love when things are simplified. I think that's it's a good way to fuel your creativity too, because once things are too complicated, you just say no. I'm not going to be able to do that.
Right.
And yeah, that's why I feel like books and ideas that are just explained properly can help in understanding what we actually need to do and problem solve.
Nice. I love it. I think that's great. I love books and reading as well. And I just finished Cicely Tyson's memoir, which is amazing. If
Nice.
want to read it, it's a great picture.
I'm so curious to know what inspires you as.
Oh my goodness. So many things inspire me, and inspiration, it's like seeing something in nature reminds me of a past experience that I'm inspired to try again. Or like one day I was, it was the beginning of May, and May Day was happening, and I was reminded of from my childhood where we would celebrate May Day and have maypole dances and make flower crowns, and that inspired me to go into my costume box and find a flower crown and put it on and see what happened, and just explore and play and kind of revisit that childlike magical space of May Day as a kid.
Okay.
That inspires me. But people who are passionate about things inspire me. Doing things that they love. Anything with creativity inspires me. So literally anything can inspire me.
That's awesome. That's good.
Yeah. I think it could be big or could be small. It doesn't matter. We pay attention, even the little things.
We just have to be intentional.
Yeah. And that idea of inspiration really is, it's like you're breathing in and breathing out. We're inspired with every breath. So that's my little take on inspiration. And when you think about community, it just sounds like there was such a community for you and your family with your brother, and then now the neurofeedback community. How does your community impact and influence your creativity?
In a very positive way, that's for sure. Whether you hear about stories of families and children who have overcame tremendous challenges, or really let it be even I have very successful family members and friends who are doing so well in their jobs and in whatever creative path they're in. I love being around people who are doing things and who are being productive, in the community. And in neurofeedback, there's so much creativity. It's interesting. People are being innovative in the way that they want to measure the brain. But unfortunately, in my opinion, the more we try to measure the brain and analyze it and try to get information from it, you're actually ending up removing any type of natural human essence that the brain can have. And we end up looking at people as numbers.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening in the field of neurofeedback is, you know, you want to analyze and measure and say that this person, let's say this person who has depression has a lot of low frequency brain waves in a certain area of the brain. And then they'll end up looking at this person just that way. But then unfortunately, by doing that, you're completely removing any other potential of what that person could be experiencing, or how that person would want to grow. And no originality is left. And so then your creative thinking is kind of gone, because you're going down a linear way of thinking of the brain. And the brain is not linear at all. It is the most complex thing. We still have no idea how the brain works. We don't know how we're sitting right now. And trying to understand it so numerically, for me is a way of just diminishing it. You're trying to understand something that has so much more to it, and you have to be creative in understanding someone. You just have to. It can't just come down to numbers. It's such a holistic experience and way of thinking, and that, yes, that does require creativity. And unfortunately, that's where the field is going. And I'm just hoping that a lot of people in the field will not forget that we do need to be creative, and we need to be problem solvers, and to think bigger than that.
I wonder how the numbers are actually storytellers. That would be my curiosity.
The problem is that people try to make stories out of the numbers alone.
Okay. Without incorporating the other experience that's also
without
happening.
Incorporating. So you and I could have similar numbers. If we look at our brains, it's very possible that your brainwave data could be the same as mine. But does that tell me what kind of person do you want to be? Does that tell me what kind of person how do you enjoy your day? Do you enjoy your day relaxing, sitting? Do you enjoy your day running? How do you like to feel? How do you want to grow? Who do you want? And those are very different questions, and they have to do with healing, and they have to do with storytelling. Your story is going to be different than mine. And numbers are very important. I didn't mean to dismiss that they're not. But the field right now, yes, relies heavily on just the numbers.
I see.
And that's where it gets risky. You could even look at my brainwave data and compare it to my brother's. And it's very possible that his brainwave data looks better than mine. And we're completely different people. And he has more challenges than I do.
It's fascinating. And as you said, we've only scratched the surface of understanding the brain. There's so much more to explore and understand. And I think you're right that people can become very focused or overly focused on one aspect of it and forget that there's what's happening to the rest of the person and their actual lived experience in life as well. So creativity could absolutely support that in how to continue to navigate it. Nice. Well, when you think of everyday issues that you navigate, what are some everyday issues that you've had to use creativity to solve?
Other than my work, you mean?
It could be work. It could be non-work. Yeah.
For me right now, the first thing that pops in my head is I definitely use creativity when it comes to my relationships with my family.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I'm trying to make sure my husband is doing well or that my son is doing okay, how am I going to think of a way that always works, or I'm definitely being creative every day, and what do they need from me? Do I need to stay constant and consistent, or do they need me today to be more hyper, or do they need me to be calm? And yeah, that has to do a lot with my work. Obviously, work is my every day. At the end, I integrate it in my life. But even if you're teaching, I'm always thinking, what does this person need of me? And I think that's where also my creativity comes into play, because you could find someone who's so artsy and, designs or paints or, but they could be really bad with people.
Yeah. Their ability to connect may not be.
Yeah. They could just not be able to see what's going on in front of them. And maybe they're really into their world. And I know so many people like that.
Yeah.
I'm not able to be creative maybe in that way, but I know that when I have someone in front of me, I will do my best to see what do you need of me, and how can I get that version out, because for the people that we love, we need to be able to adapt. And I wish people do that, with me too.
Yeah.
Just a one-way street.
Absolutely.
And it's hard. It definitely requires to be creative, because sometimes you don't want to make that effort, and sometimes you don't feel like helping people. And so it does require a certain level of imagination and of play.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that's such a great reminder that, there's so much creativity that goes into connection with the people we care about, people we love, not only in our jobs and careers, but also in all of our relationships as well. So thanks for that reminder.
I mean, I feel like I'm such an unconventional creative person.
Which is great. I love it. Like, it's so relatable. Many people don't see themselves as creative. And then the more we talk about creativity, the more people recognize the ways in their own life that they are creative. Like,
yeah,
it is. So much creativity goes into relationships and navigating them and how we show up in our relationships and how we engage.
And I think I definitely that's what I use, when I'm writing. And for me, my writing it is based on my relationships. I would have nothing else to write about, really. I'm interested in the brain because of relationships.
Yeah.
It fuels me.
That's so great. And I hope more people, dive into understanding the brain in small ways so they can engage and relate with others.
Yeah, I mean, I could come and tell you about the hippocampus, and I'm sure that's what I love neuroanatomy, and we have to use neuroanatomy to understand what's going on and to drive our decisions, especially when we're doing neurofeedback and any kind of brain-based modalities. But also you want to find ways, that's how I see it. I want to find ways to connect to people in the way that they could understand. And if I just start throwing brain anatomy names without giving it any meaning, you're not going to remember any of the names. You're going to close this podcast and think, what did you say? The hippo what?
Right.
And and then forget about the whole concept of creativity. So sorry, maybe you'd want to hear more about brain areas, but
no, that's it. That's fine.
Yeah. I'm thinking more, okay, for me, it's relationships, I guess.
Yeah.
That's where I'm creative.
Which is so beautiful and such I think, a new concept for a lot of people, that you can be creative in your relationships and how you navigate that. And I just wonder, how would you encourage others to find creativity in their lives?
I think I would just, like you were saying earlier, put that frontal lobe down and tell them to shut up.
Yeah.
And for me, it has to do with beliefs. If you have a belief that fun is supposed to be in a certain way, or that growth is supposed to look a certain way, or that focus, even, paying attention is supposed to look a certain way, then we won't be able to be creative. And it has to do with what we know and what we believe in. If I believe in success as being someone who has good grades at school, or if I believe as success is seeing my child reach the right developmental stage at the right time, then I'll get flustered and I won't be able to be creative. And okay, if my child's not able to talk yet, if my child is not able to do a certain movement, and I think it's the end of the world because this is what I believe in, then I won't be creative enough and maybe, say those words in front of him and see if he can say them back, or maybe I can crawl in front of him and see if he can crawl with me, saying really silly things. But, and maybe just not being afraid of being silly.
Yeah. I think that's
it has to do with your belief too.
A big
If you believe that being silly is a failure, then
it weaves together, like so many pieces come together. But I love it. It's a good reminder. Don't be afraid to be silly and have fun.
What do you tell people to encourage them?
Try new things. Like make a list of things you want to try, pick one and try it. It might fail.
I have that's an issue I have.
Yeah.
I don't remember I'm trying to think. When was the last time I tried something new?
Yeah. Even if it's like a food you've never tried before, or going to a place you've never been before, or I don't know, watching a TV show that you've never watched before. That's something new.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be like a huge, big bucket list thing.
I guess for me, a big something I've always wanted to get back into is dance. I just haven't. I've been so afraid to. Because I feel like I'm just older now, and it was good when I was younger, and
we tell ourselves all these stories.
You've encouraged me to maybe explore that again.
I love it. Yeah. And one of the biggest ways to support ourselves getting back into something is when we feel safe enough. If we don't have safety, it's really hard to try new things. So
safety is a good one.
Finding that safety within ourselves to take that risk, to step into that, at what's outside of our comfort zone. That's where creativity really comes to life. So, but I fully support you to go try some more dance. I love it.
Yes.
That sounds amazing. I did that several years ago. I'd never taken a tango dance class, and I thought, you know what? I want to learn how to tango dance. And so I went and took a class, and I've been doing it ever since. I mean, not in COVID, but yeah.
I'm definitely going to be asking my husband tonight if he'd like to join me in tango dance classes.
Oh my gosh. It's so amazing and so much fun. It's okay. I look forward to hearing how it goes. Well, this has been such a treat to chat with you. And I just have one last question.
Me too.
What does it feel like to you to be creative? So what's the feeling of creativity for you?
You mean like if I feel like I'm being creative?
Sure.
I love the word that you used earlier, flow. But I think it's flow, but it's more like, like a crazy network, and it's like I'm connecting this line to this line to this line to this line, and things make sense. And then to get back to what I was saying earlier, it's like just simplifying something. Maybe it's like something that you can put all together, and then that idea and concept is ready to be introduced to the world.
Does it have do you feel calm when that happens?
Oh no, I feel excited.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah. No, for me, creativity for me is excitement. It's high energy. It's I don't think my creativity is more in the I'm someone who loves being very productive and who loves being active and except at very late at night, but so I do well when I have high focus, high energy. So I guess that's why my creativity
charges
really comes when I'm feeling that way.
Nice.
So, and that differs from person to person, obviously, depending on how your brain is wired. And
yes.
Yeah.
That would be a fascinating study.
Yeah.
how what it feels like to be creative shows up in your brain.
Yeah.
That would be very
your
cool.
brain states, maybe.
Yeah. Who knows? Anyway, this has been such a treat to chat with you.
Me too.
People want to learn more about the work you do, where to find your book, how to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
So my book, From Client to Clinician, The Transformative Power of Neurofeedback Therapy for Families Living with Autism and Other Special Needs, it is available on Amazon. You can also go on my book website. It's called clienttoclinician.com. You can find me on Instagram. It's louloua.seh. And it was such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. It was such a treat. Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. If you're looking to awaken more creativity in your own life, check out my 12-week Awakening Creativity course. The link is in the show notes, and join us to learn concrete skills to take creative risk, ignite your subconscious, rediscover imagination, and collaborate with your creativity ensemble. If you sign up through the podcast, make sure to use the code SCPodcast, like Sustaining Creativity Podcast, for 20% off. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode, and remember, with creativity, anything's possible.